In life, we often encounter situations where our emotions are provoked, where people challenge us, or where conflicts arise. Our first instinct might be to respond, to defend ourselves, or to react to the perceived injustice. But there is power in recognizing that not every challenge, insult, or disagreement is worth our time and energy. Not every situation needs a response, and not every person deserves our emotional investment. Understanding that not every battle is worth fighting allows us to prioritize our peace, preserve our energy, and focus on what truly matters in our lives. When we engage in every confrontation, we spread ourselves thin. Every disagreement, every insult, and every negative comment requires energy. Our minds and emotions get entangled in conflicts that, in many cases, are trivial and unnecessary. The more we engage with these situations, the more we deplete our mental and emotional reserves. Each time we give our time and attention to something that doesn't serve us, we lose an opportunity to focus on the things that truly matter: our personal growth, our relationships, our goals, and our well-being. It's easy to feel the need to respond to every challenge or criticism. We may feel that we must defend our character, explain ourselves, or prove that we are right. But engaging in this cycle of defense can often lead to more stress, more negativity, and more wasted energy. The truth is that many people who challenge or criticize us are doing so out of their own insecurities, frustrations, or agendas. They may not even fully understand or appreciate the context of what they are saying or doing. Therefore, responding to these challenges often only validates their behavior, allowing them to continue to disrupt our peace. One of the most important lessons we can learn is that not everyone who challenges us needs our response. Not every comment or action is worth our time and emotional energy. We don't have to engage with people who thrive on negativity or drama. By choosing to disengage, we can protect ourselves from getting drawn into unnecessary conflict. We are not obligated to defend ourselves against every opinion, judgment, or criticism. The most powerful response in some situations is no response at all. When we stop reacting to every challenge, we also stop allowing others to control our emotional state. Every time we engage with negativity, we are allowing that negativity to dictate how we feel. Whether it's a hurtful comment or a provocation, if we respond emotionally, we give away our power. We become reactive instead of proactive and allow our emotions to be shaped by external forces. But when we recognize that not every battle is worth fighting, we take back control. We choose how to respond, or whether to respond, or whether to respond at all. This empowerment allows us to maintain our inner peace, regardless of what is happening around us. Moreover, choosing not to fight every battle helps us conserve our energy for the things that truly matter. Not all conflicts are created equal. Some are important and worthy of our time and attention, while others are distractions that serve no purpose other than to derail us from our goals. When we engage in every disagreement or challenge, we may find ourselves caught up in issues that, in the grand scheme of things, have no real bearing on our lives. By choosing to avoid these trivial conflicts, we free ourselves to focus on what truly aligns with our values and aspirations. Sometimes, not fighting every battle means choosing peace over pride. Our egos can often get in the way of making wise decisions. When someone insults us or challenges our beliefs, our instinct may be to defend ourselves to protect our pride. But when we engage out of pride, we often end up in a cycle of escalation, where the conflict becomes more about winning the argument than about resolving the issue. Not every challenge needs to be a fight for dominance or validation. Choosing not to engage allows us to rise above petty power struggles and maintain a sense of dignity. Choosing which battles to fight also requires a deeper level of discernment. We must learn to assess situations with clarity and wisdom, recognizing when it's better to walk away rather than engage. In many cases, what may seem like a personal attack or a deep injustice is often a reflection of the other person's issues or projections. It may have very little to do with us, and engaging in it only allows their problems to become our own. By choosing to step back and not engage, we prevent ourselves from becoming entangled in other people's emotional turmoil. Not every person or situation deserves our attention. Some people may challenge us for the sake of validation, drama, or control. They may seek to provoke us simply to see how we will react. In these cases, responding only feeds their need for attention and keeps the cycle of negativity going. We don't need to give them the satisfaction of our reaction. By refusing to engage, we take away their power and refuse to become a part of their drama. Furthermore, when we stop fighting every battle, we begin to focus more on the bigger picture. We realize that many of the things that upset us or cause conflict are fleeting. What might seem important in the moment often fades with time. Not every issue needs to be confronted immediately. Sometimes the best course of action is to wait, reflect, and see if the situation resolves itself without our intervention. This patience allows us to maintain a sense of perspective and not get bogged down by the small, transient problems that inevitably arise in life. Choosing to fight only the battles that matter also aligns with the concept of self-care. We cannot pour from an empty cup. If we waste our energy on every challenge, we end up with little left to give to the people or causes that truly deserve it. Self-care involves protecting our emotional and mental health by being selective about where we invest our energy. We cannot be everything to everyone, and we cannot fight every battle. Recognizing this truth allows us to make better choices about where and when to engage. In the end, learning not to fight every battle is about choosing peace, preserving our energy, and focusing on what truly matters. By being mindful of where we invest our emotional resources, we can create a life that is more fulfilling, focused, and peaceful. We learn to recognize the battles that are worth fighting and those that are better left behind. In doing so, we conserve our energy for the things that contribute to our growth, well-being, and happiness, instead of wasting it on conflicts that do nothing but drain us. Setting boundaries is one of the most important practices for maintaining personal well-being and emotional stability. It is not just about saying no to others, but about understanding and respecting one's own limits, needs, and values. In many ways, boundaries are the silent force that enables us to live peacefully, prioritize our energy, and protect ourselves from the emotional and mental exhaustion that often arises from overcommitting, people-pleasing, or engaging with negativity. Boundaries are essential in every aspect of life work, relationships, and self-care, and the act of cutting someone off silently can be a way to preserve those boundaries in a world that constantly demands more of us. When we fail to set clear boundaries, we risk allowing others to dictate the terms of our emotional, mental, and physical states. Without boundaries, we often find ourselves entangled in toxic situations, drained by people who take more than they give, or overwhelmed by responsibilities that we never agreed to take on. Boundaries are what help us maintain our sense of self and protect our well-being. They give us the power to decide where our energy goes and how much of ourselves we are willing to share or invest in others. By cutting someone off silently, we are essentially reinforcing our boundaries without the need for confrontation. It is a way of saying, I will not allow your behavior to affect me without engaging in a heated exchange or emotional tug of war. One of the most crucial aspects of boundaries is that they help us manage our emotional energy. Every interaction, whether positive or negative, requires a certain amount of emotional energy. When we engage with others, especially those who are demanding, toxic, or manipulative, we risk depleting that energy. This depletion can leave us feeling emotionally drained, anxious, or even resentful. When we cut someone off silently, we protect our energy from being drained by people who do not contribute to our well-being. This is not about being rude or dismissive, but about recognizing that we are responsible for preserving our own emotional health. We don't owe anyone our energy if they are not bringing something positive into our lives. In relationships, boundaries are often tested. People who are used to getting their way or those who are accustomed to manipulating others can push against our limits to see how much they can take. When we allow others to cross our boundaries repeatedly, we risk losing our sense of self and becoming caught in unhealthy patterns. For example, in friendships or romantic relationships, we might encounter individuals who are constantly demanding our time, emotional labor, or attention without offering anything in return. The more we give, the more they take, and the more drained we feel. Cutting someone off silently, in these cases, is an act of self-respect and an affirmation of our own needs. It is a way to establish a boundary that says, I will no longer tolerate this imbalance, but I don't need to argue about it. I will simply choose to disengage. Setting boundaries also applies to our time and priorities. We live in a world that is constantly pulling us in different directions. Work demands, family expectations, social obligations, and personal goals all vie for our attention, and it can be easy to stretch ourselves too thin. When we don't have clear boundaries around our time, we end up overcommitting ourselves and neglecting our own needs. This leads to burnout, stress, and feelings of resentment. Cutting someone off silently can be a way of asserting control over your time. For instance, if someone repeatedly asks for your time or energy in a way that disrupts your priorities, silently stepping back without explanation can send a powerful message that your time is valuable and non-negotiable. You don't need to justify yourself or explain your reasons. Your boundary is enough. In addition to managing emotional and physical energy, boundaries also safeguard our mental clarity. Without boundaries, it's easy to become overwhelmed by the noise and chaos of the world around us. The constant demands, opinions, and expectations can cloud our judgment, making it difficult to focus on what's truly important. Setting boundaries allows us to create the mental space we need to think clearly, make thoughtful decisions, and prioritize our goals. By cutting off negative influences or disengaging from unproductive conversations, We give ourselves the space to think without interference. This kind of mental clarity is essential for personal growth as it allows us to focus on our long-term objectives rather than getting lost in day-to-day distractions. The act of cutting someone off silently can also be a form of self-care. Self-care is often misunderstood as simply taking time to relax or indulge in pleasurable activities. While that is a part of it, true self-care involves protecting our peace and setting healthy limits on how much we are willing to give to others. Cutting someone off silently is an act of choosing yourself. It's a decision to prioritize your mental, emotional, and physical well-being over the needs or expectations of others. It's about recognizing that you deserve to be treated with respect and dignity, and if someone is not honoring that, you have the right to remove yourself from the situation without drama or confrontation. It's important to note that setting boundaries, particularly through silent disengagement, does not mean we are avoiding conflict or being passive-aggressive. It is simply a way of asserting control over our environment without engaging in unnecessary drama. Often, people may not even realize that they have crossed a line until we silently remove ourselves from their presence. The act of cutting someone off silently sends a clear message that we will no longer tolerate certain behaviors, but it does so without escalating the situation or causing unnecessary tension. It's a mature way to deal with conflict, one that allows us to protect our peace without getting caught up in petty arguments or long-winded explanations. The act of cutting someone off silently is an important tool in maintaining and respecting our boundaries. It is a way of protecting our emotional, mental, and physical resources from being drained by others. By disengaging quietly, we are asserting our right to peace and emotional autonomy, sending a message that our boundaries are non-negotiable. This is not about being unkind or dismissive, but about protecting ourselves from negativity and choosing to prioritize our own well-being. When we establish and maintain healthy boundaries, we create the space to focus on what matters most and to cultivate the peace and fulfillment that we deserve. Self-respect is one of the most fundamental aspects of a well-balanced life, yet it is often one of the most overlooked. When we allow others to treat us poorly or invade our personal space, we undermine our own sense of worth. We may feel guilty, unsure, or even obligated to keep people in our lives who do not respect us. However, the act of silently cutting someone off is an essential way of maintaining self-respect. By doing so, we honor ourselves and establish boundaries that reflect our value and our desire for peace. Self-respect comes from knowing what we are worth and protecting that worth from external forces that seek to diminish it. When we engage with people who do not value or respect us, we are essentially telling ourselves that we are not worthy of better treatment. Over time, this erodes our self-esteem, leaving us in a state of emotional turmoil. It can feel like we are constantly battling with others for our sense of self-worth, and the longer we engage in this struggle, the more it wears us down. When we allow others to continuously disrespect us, we start to internalize those actions, doubting our own value and questioning whether we deserve better. One of the most powerful ways to preserve our self-respect is by refusing to engage with people who do not treat us in a way that aligns with our standards. Often we get caught up in thinking that we have to explain ourselves or justify our decisions when someone's behavior is hurtful or disrespectful. We feel as though we need to confront them, argue our point, or prove that their actions are wrong. However, the truth is that not every situation needs a confrontation, and not every person deserves a piece of our emotional energy. By silently cutting someone off, we communicate a powerful message that we will no longer tolerate behavior that compromises our peace and self-respect. Engaging with people who disrespect us, whether consciously or unconsciously, takes a toll on our mental and emotional health. The more we allow negative influences into our lives, the more we open ourselves up to stress, anxiety, and frustration. Repeated exposure to negativity or disrespectful behavior can make us feel like we are always in a defensive position, constantly protecting ourselves from verbal attacks or emotional manipulation. This kind of emotional labor is exhausting, and over time it can leave us feeling drained, helpless, and less confident in our ability to control our own lives. Cutting someone off silently without explanation is a way of removing ourselves from that cycle. It's a way of reclaiming our energy and protecting our sense of self-worth. Self-respect means being willing to walk away from situations or relationships that do not serve our best interests. In many cases, we hesitate to let go of people who have been a part of our lives for a long time, even if they have become toxic or harmful. We may feel guilty, as though we owe them something or that walking away would make us a bad person. But the reality is that we owe it to ourselves to protect our well-being. Maintaining relationships with people who undermine our self-respect ultimately sends the message that we are not worthy of better treatment. By cutting them off silently, we take a stand for our own value. We acknowledge that we are worth more than the hurtful behavior they bring into our lives and choose to disengage in a way that maintains our dignity. In relationships, whether romantic, familial, or platonic, there is often a delicate balance between asserting our needs and maintaining harmony. We may fear that standing up for ourselves will lead to conflict, hurt feelings, or even a rupture in the relationship. However, self-respect requires that we prioritize our own needs and well-being over the fear of conflict. Cutting someone off silently is not about creating drama or making a statement. It is simply a quiet act of self-preservation. It is about acknowledging that we do not have to explain ourselves to others, nor do we need to tolerate poor treatment to keep the peace. When we choose to disengage, we assert our self-respect without confrontation. We communicate that we will not sacrifice our peace for anyone. Another important aspect of self-respect is understanding that our time and energy are precious resources. We often give our time to others out of a sense of obligation or to maintain relationships, even when doing so causes us stress or discomfort. By allowing someone to repeatedly drain our energy without contributing positively to our lives, we are devaluing ourselves. Cutting someone off silently is a way of taking control of our time and energy, ensuring that we allocate them to the people and activities that nourish us. It is a choice to invest in ourselves, to recognize that our peace and emotional health are worth protecting, and that we do not need to give our energy to people who do not reciprocate. The act of cutting someone off silently can also be an exercise in personal growth. It requires us to understand and accept our worth, and to establish the boundaries that will help us protect it. As we navigate relationships, we learn that some people's behavior is not about us, it's a reflection of their own issues or limitations. When we disengage, we free ourselves from taking on the emotional burdens of others. This detachment allows us to focus on our own growth and development, which is essential for maintaining self-respect. We begin to recognize that we are not responsible for other people's actions, but we are responsible for how we respond to them. By choosing not to engage with those who disrespect us, we take control of our lives and affirm our commitment to personal growth. In the end, cutting someone off silently is a powerful act of maintaining self-respect. It's a quiet declaration that we value ourselves too much to tolerate mistreatment. It's a decision to protect our energy, prioritize our well-being, and assert our boundaries in a way that aligns with our values. It's not about being harsh or cold, but rather about choosing to preserve our peace and dignity in the face of negativity or disrespect. By doing so, we honor ourselves and create space for healthier, more fulfilling relationships. Life is full of distractions, challenges, and demands that can easily lead us off course. Many of us find ourselves constantly pulled in different directions by external forces, whether it's the expectations of others, societal pressures, or the weight of our own ambitions. But amidst all of this noise, there is incredible power in learning how to focus on ourselves. When we redirect our energy from outside influences to our own goals, well-being, and personal growth, we begin to create a life that is more intentional, fulfilling, and aligned with our true desires. This shift in focus is not only liberating, but also necessary for long-term success and happiness. One of the greatest struggles in our modern world is the constant pull of external distractions. With the rise of social media, constant connectivity, and the pressure to keep up with others, it is easy to lose sight of our own path. We are often bombarded by the lives of others, their successes, and their journeys, which can lead us to compare ourselves, feel inadequate, or fall into patterns of chasing things that aren't even aligned with our values. These distractions create a sense of inner conflict and divide our attention, leaving us scattered and unsure of what we truly want. Focusing on ourselves means taking a step back from the noise and the expectations of the world around us. It's about turning inward and reflecting on our own values, desires, and needs. This doesn't mean being selfish or ignoring the needs of others, but it does mean recognizing that in order to be truly present for others, we must first be present for ourselves. By focusing on our personal growth, mental health, and emotional well-being, we create a foundation that allows us to show up as our best selves in the world. This process begins with understanding what truly matters to us. So often we are so caught up in the rush of life that we forget to ask ourselves what we truly want. We get caught up in following the paths laid out by others, whether it's the expectations of our families, the demands of our jobs, or the pressures of social media. When we stop and focus on ourselves, we are able to peel away these external layers and uncover our own passions, goals, and desires. This clarity is essential for making decisions that align with our values rather than being driven by the outside world. When we focus on ourselves, we also begin to establish healthier boundaries. In our efforts to please others or meet external expectations, we often overextend ourselves, sacrificing our time, energy, and peace in the process. This can lead to burnout, resentment, and a sense of being out of control. By focusing on our own needs and well-being, we learn to say no when necessary and protect our time and energy for what truly matters. This creates space for personal growth and development and allows us to pursue our goals without feeling like we are constantly giving in to the demands of others. The importance of focusing on ourselves also extends to our mental and emotional health. In a world that constantly demands more from us, it is easy to overlook our own well-being. We may push ourselves too hard, neglect self-care, or suppress our emotions in order to meet expectations. But when we prioritize ourselves, we recognize the importance of taking care of our minds and emotions. This could mean taking time for rest, engaging in activities that bring us joy, or seeking support when needed. By focusing on our mental and emotional health, we create a strong foundation that allows us to face life's challenges with resilience and clarity. Self-focus also means taking responsibility for our own growth. It's easy to blame external circumstances or other people for our challenges, but true empowerment comes when we recognize that we have control over our own actions and choices. When we focus on ourselves, we are able to identify the areas where we need to grow and take the necessary steps to improve. Whether it's learning a new skill, improving our health, or developing better habits, self-focus encourages us to take ownership of our personal development. This process of growth is deeply empowering, as it reinforces the idea that we are in control of our own journey. Furthermore, focusing on ourselves helps us build a stronger sense of self-worth. When we are constantly seeking validation from others or comparing ourselves to those around us, we can lose sight of our own value. By focusing on our own growth and accomplishments, we begin to see ourselves in a new light. We learn to appreciate our own progress regardless of how it measures up to others. This shift in perspective is essential for building confidence and a sense of inner strength that is not dependent on the approval of others. By focusing on ourselves, we also learn to cultivate gratitude. It is easy to get caught up in what we don't have or what we wish we could achieve, but focusing on our own journey allows us to appreciate the progress we've made and the resources we have. We can start to acknowledge the small victories and the steps forward rather than always looking ahead to the next goal or comparison. Gratitude helps us stay grounded and content, while also motivating us to continue growing and evolving. Focusing on ourselves also leads to greater authenticity. When we are not consumed by the opinions of others or trying to meet external expectations, we can connect with our true selves. This authenticity allows us to make choices that feel aligned with who we are rather than acting out of fear or the desire to please others. We become more confident in our decisions and more comfortable in our own skin. This authenticity also attracts like-minded people into our lives who resonate with our values and who support our journey. It's important to recognize that focusing on ourselves is not a one-time decision, but an ongoing process. It requires consistent effort and reflection. In a world that constantly demands our attention and energy, it can be easy to lose sight of our own needs. However, by intentionally creating space for self-focus, we reinforce our commitment to personal growth and well-being. We begin to create a life that is more aligned with our true desires and values, and less influenced by the noise and expectations of the outside world. When we focus on ourselves, we reclaim control over our lives. We take ownership of our happiness, success, and fulfillment, rather than leaving these things in the hands of others. This shift in mindset allows us to move forward with purpose and clarity, making decisions that support our growth and align with our goals. As we continue to focus on ourselves, we create a more balanced, peaceful, and fulfilling life, one that is not dictated by external forces, but shaped by our own choices and values. Ladies and gentlemen, in life, we often face situations where others try to provoke us, test our patience, or push our buttons. Whether it's in our personal relationships, at work, or in everyday interactions, there will always be people who aim to drag us into unnecessary drama, negative energy, or conflict. But here's the truth: you have the power to choose how you respond. The key is not to react impulsively, but to cut them off silently. In the fast-paced world we live in, we are constantly bombarded by people and situations that attempt to provoke us or drag us into conflict. Whether it's a disagreement at work, a misunderstanding with a loved one, or an unexpected insult, our initial instinct may be to react immediately. However, one of the most powerful responses you can give in these moments is silence. Silence isn't just the absence of sound, it is a form of strength that many fail to recognize. It is the deliberate choice not to engage with negativity, not to give in to the urge to respond. In fact, silence can be one of the most powerful tools you have in maintaining control over your emotions and your energy. When you choose silence over reaction, you are reclaiming your power. Our emotions can often be triggered by others, and when we react in the heat of the moment, we give those people control over how we feel. By responding to someone's anger, criticism, or provocation, we are essentially letting them dictate our emotional state. In this way,
Silence
we lose
can
our
also
sense
be
of
a
self
form
and
of
allow external
self-preservation.
forces to disturb our inner peace.
When we react emotionally
Silence,
to
on
a
the other
negative
hand,
situation,
allows you to control the
we
situation.
often create a chain reaction that leads
Instead
to
of
more
reacting
negativity.
impulsively, you take a step back
An
and choose
argument
not to
can
let the
quickly
words or
spiral out of
actions of others
control.
define your emotional
Insults can
experience.
escalate, and before we know it, we've involved ourselves in a toxic cycle that drains our energy. By remaining silent, we avoid getting sucked into that cycle. We refuse to engage in a back and forth that serves no real purpose, except to escalate tension. In essence, silence allows us to maintain our mental and emotional well-being by preventing further damage. The act of remaining silent also communicates strength to others. While some might perceive silence as weakness or avoidance, it actually takes a great deal of inner strength to resist the urge to react. Many people expect a quick response, a reaction to their words or actions. But when you stay silent, you show that you are not easily rattled. It can be a silent declaration that you are not interested in the drama or negativity they are trying to provoke. Silence forces people to face their own behavior without getting the immediate validation or reaction they might be seeking. When you withhold your response, it can be an incredibly powerful way to assert your boundaries and show that you will not be manipulated by others. Silence allows you the space to process the situation before reacting. We are all prone to making snap judgments or saying things in the heat of the moment that we later regret. By remaining silent, you create a pause between stimulus and response, giving yourself the opportunity to think more clearly and assess the situation from a place of calm. This pause enables you to choose your response more wisely and thoughtfully, rather than simply reacting out of impulse or frustration. In this way, silence acts as a filter, allowing you to avoid saying something you might regret, while also giving you the clarity to make better decisions. Silence is also a way to avoid engaging in fruitless conflict. Not every disagreement or insult deserves your time or energy. Sometimes people are simply looking to provoke a reaction for their own amusement, or they may be projecting their own issues onto you. Engaging with them only validates their behavior and feeds into their negative energy. By cutting them off silently, you are essentially refusing to play into their game. You don't need to prove anything to anyone, and you don't need to participate in conflict that doesn't serve you. Your silence is a way of saying, I will not waste my time or energy on this. It's an act of self-respect, of choosing peace over drama. In many cases, silence can also be an indication of emotional intelligence. When we respond impulsively or with anger, we often react from a place of ego, pride, or hurt feelings. These responses are often driven by our need to defend ourselves, to prove that we are right, or to protect our image. However, emotional intelligence allows us to recognize that not every challenge needs a reaction. It teaches us that we don't have to respond to every insult or criticism. In fact, choosing silence over reaction demonstrates a higher level of maturity and emotional control. It shows that you are secure enough in yourself to not feel the need to justify your actions or defend your character to others. Moreover, silence can allow you to step back and gain a deeper understanding of the situation. In the heat of the moment, emotions can cloud our judgment, and we may misinterpret the intentions behind someone's words or actions. Taking a moment of silence gives you the chance to step back, gather your thoughts, and see the bigger picture. It allows you to evaluate the situation from a more objective standpoint, and sometimes that brief pause is enough to recognize that the issue is not worth engaging with. In some cases, silence can reveal that the other person is dealing with their own struggles, and their words may have less to do with you and more to do with their own unresolved issues. Ultimately, silence is a powerful tool for personal growth and self-control. It teaches us to manage our emotions, avoid unnecessary conflict, and maintain our peace. By choosing silence, we stop ourselves from becoming reactive and allow ourselves to remain in a place of inner calm. It is not a sign of weakness, but a demonstration of strength, maturity, and emotional intelligence. In the face of provocation, silence may be the most powerful response we can give. In a world full of constant noise, distractions, and emotional triggers, one of the most important choices we can make is how to direct our energy. Every day we are presented with opportunities to either engage in drama or to rise above it, and often the path of least resistance is to react to the negativity around us. But in truth, reacting to everything that comes our way can be incredibly draining. Every time we react to someone's provocation, criticism, or negative energy, we give away a little piece of ourselves. Our mental and emotional resources are finite, and if we aren't careful, we can easily deplete them, leaving us feeling exhausted, overwhelmed, and unable to focus on what truly matters. When we choose not to react, when we choose silence or detachment, instead of engaging in a reactionary cycle, we protect our most valuable resource, our energy. Reacting to negativity
whether it's from a coworker, a friend, or even a stranger, often leads to a cascade of negative emotions. We may feel anger, frustration, or disappointment, and those emotions can linger, often far longer than the situation itself. This drain on our emotional energy doesn't only affect us in the moment, it can carry over into our other interactions, our work, and our ability to focus on the things that truly require our attention. Negativity is contagious. When we engage with it, we invite it into our lives. Just as positivity can uplift those around us, negativity can easily spread, pulling us into a vortex of drama and frustration. If we engage with it, we not only waste our time and energy, but we also risk perpetuating the cycle. In workplaces, for example, when we respond to gossip or office politics, we become part of that toxic environment. At home, responding to petty arguments or conflicts can drain the emotional energy that could be better spent fostering love and understanding. Reacting to negativity may seem like a natural instinct, but it only exacerbates the situation, and in many cases, it fuels the fire. When we stop reacting to negativity, we protect ourselves from being dragged into situations that drain us. It's important to recognize that we are not obligated to engage in every situation, and not every person who tries to provoke us deserves a response. By choosing silence, we are actively deciding not to waste our energy on things that don't serve us. It's like a shield that protects our emotional well-being. We begin to recognize that, in many instances, negativity has nothing to do with us at all. It's often a projection of someone else's inner turmoil or frustrations. When we react, we validate those negative emotions, feeding them rather than diffusing them. But when we refuse to engage, we take away their power. It is easy to fall into the trap of reacting, because it often feels like we need to defend ourselves. Someone criticizes us, and we feel the need to explain, justify, or fight back. This instinct to defend ourselves is deeply ingrained in human nature. We want to protect our reputation, our integrity, and our self-image, but the truth is our self-worth isn't defined by how we respond to every criticism or attack. Our worth remains intact, regardless of what others think or say about us. By not reacting, we refuse to engage in a validation game. Instead of defending ourselves, we maintain our dignity by remaining calm and composed. This is not to say we should ignore injustices or tolerate mistreatment, but rather that we do not need to let every negative encounter drain our energy. One of the most powerful aspects of not reacting is the ability to maintain emotional stability. When we choose silence over reaction, we give ourselves the space to process the situation and determine the most appropriate course of action. Reacting impulsively to negativity often leads to regret, as our emotional response may not reflect our true intentions or values. When we respond with anger, frustration, or defensiveness, we may later realize that our reaction was disproportionate to the situation, or that we gave too much power to someone who didn't deserve it. By choosing not to react, we prevent these moments of regret. We are giving ourselves time to step back, clear our minds, and approach the situation with a level head. This pause allows us to save our energy for situations where it truly matters and to avoid wasting it on petty arguments or conflicts. Moreover, by not reacting, we preserve our mental clarity. Often when we react emotionally, our thoughts become clouded. We may lose sight of the bigger picture, focusing too much on the small annoyances or injustices in front of us. This can cause us to lose perspective and become consumed by insignificant issues. When we choose not to react, we maintain a broader view. We realize that not every comment or situation requires our attention. In doing so, we free up mental space that can be better used for creativity, problem solving, and focusing on our personal and professional goals. Another aspect of preserving our energy through silence is that it allows us to conserve our physical energy as well. Emotional reactions are often tied to physical responses, such as increased heart rate, tension, or feelings of exhaustion. When we react to stress or negativity, we are physically expending energy that could be put to better use. By staying silent, we avoid the physical drain that comes with heightened emotional states. This means we have more energy for the things that actually matter, whether it's spending time with loved ones, focusing on personal goals, or just resting and recharging. By cutting off negativity silently, we become more resilient. We strengthen our ability to handle difficult situations with grace and poise. Instead of being caught up in every passing storm, we learn to weather life's challenges with a steady heart and mind. This resilience helps us maintain a sense of inner peace, even when the world around us seems chaotic. We begin to see that we don't have to react to everything that comes our way. The more we practice this approach, the less we allow external events or other people's negativity to dictate how we feel or how we spend our energy. We regain control over our lives and begin to channel our energy into areas that align with our values and goals, not into the drama and conflict that often surround us.